And for our podcast listeners, our weekly bonus, it is Between the Lines with our good pal Cam Tucker from BCLC and PlayNow.com. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing good there, fellas. Yeah, showing my face around the office today, first time in a while, but we got a different backdrop. As you can see, the wall with the plaster is no longer behind me right now. We got a nice backdrop. So
There you
yeah, I
go.
can't wait to can't wait to talk some CFL football.
Yeah, let's do it. BC Lions opened as a 2.5 underdog at home to Winnipeg. And you're saying that could shift depending on if number 12, Nathan Rourke, is behind center.
Yeah, my impression when I first saw the lines come out was that 2.5 was probably I felt was a little bit low, to be quite honest. And I did think that, if there's more news on the quarterback situation as the week progresses, which is what you anticipate every week, that line could go to 3.5. I may be pushing it all the way to 4. And the reason I say that is, if Nathan Rourke can't go, you're going with Jeremiah Mazzoli. And, Jeremiah Mazzoli's been in the CFL for a long time. But it's a difficult task for any quarterback to face the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I think.
Yeah.
If anything that I learned from last week's game, it's that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, in my opinion, now are still the team to beat in the West. Saskatchewan is obviously off to a really good start, but Winnipeg just showed that I still think that they're the class of the West. And look, the Lions got a bit of a tough break on this, right? You go from your season opener, you get all this hype, Snoop in town, you played a really good football game against the Elks, and then you have a short week to turn around. And then you got the Blue Bombers in their home opener, and you've got them coming off of a bye week. So they've had extra time to rest, get healthy, game plan. And, I think that the Blue Bombers, came away with obviously the win. They were underdogs going into that game, which even with Chris Streveler as their quarterback was a really interesting line by the books, to be quite honest. And I think the Blue Bombers just showcased why they are still the team to beat in the West. And whether it's Nathan Rourke going this week or Jeremiah Mazzoli, the Lions have a tough task, to be perfectly honest. And if Nathan Rourke cannot go or he's not close to 100%, then I think that we're going to see that line shift throughout the week.
Yeah, a little bit of a more level playing field this week, Cam. You said it, not us. But while there might be an entirely different quarterback matchup, it could be Jeremiah Mazzoli versus Zach Collaros in week 3. The storyline this week is that there are going to be a good 45 guys and coaching staffs that are going against each other in a rematch this week. So from the Lions' perspective, what are you looking to see from this team to bounce back and take down the Bombers in week 3?
Well, I think that for the Lions, it's got to be stop the run and be physical. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they're the team that it's not like they're a predictable offense, but how they operate. They're a run football team. They love to run the football and they commit to it.
Yeah.
And there they went again in the game on Thursday, and they knew that the Lions were coming off of a short week. So of course, what are we going to do? We're going to be physical. We're going to pound the rock. We're going to commit to it. We're not going to step away from it. And then when we have the opportunity, we're going to hit you with the deep shots, and that's what they did. I think for the Lions, you gotta find a way to stop the run. Because there's a really good chance that in November, if you want to go to the Grey Cup game, you're going to have to go through Saskatchewan or you're going to have to go through Winnipeg. You might have to go into one of those stadiums in the freezing cold in November. And what are those teams going to do? They're going to try to run the football on you. So best right now to make that adjustment and try to stop this run, knowing that Winnipeg's probably going to commit to that run game again, even with Zach Collaros in. Zach Collaros hasn't, taken a regular season snap at full speed yet, right? So he that might be a perfect way to ease him into the game is okay, we're going to run the ball. Now the Lions, you got to stop it. It's coming. Now you got to stop it. The other thing I think too with the Lions that was uh, really interesting is like when they got the points, when they had those big shots to Keon Hatcher and they were able to put some points up on the board, they just couldn't get a stop. they would allow a special teams return, or
Yeah.
they could not get off the field. And I think that for them, it's really a matter of, we have to limit the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and those explosive plays because those were the ones that hurt them. And, I think that the Lions, to be quite honest, on a short week, um, they were in it right up until the fourth quarter, and the Blue Bombers just kind of iced that game away. And so I think for the Lions, on the defensive side of the ball, you got to limit those big plays. You got to stop the run. But I also think on offense, you got to get Justin McInnis going. You got to get the run game going too. James Butler, we've seen what he can do. He's a dynamic running back. He's got 1,000 yards in this league, and he's had 10 rushing attempts in each of the last two games. He's done, I think, pretty well as catching the ball out of the backfield, but I want to see them assert some physical play and get him running the ball. Dictate the terms to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as opposed to the other way around. So I think that would be the biggest adjustment. And so I'm interested to see how the Lions offensively and defensively approach this game, because what I think it comes down to, or boils down to, is just being more physical than the other team at the line of scrimmage. And the Blue Bombers, quite frankly, won that matchup in the last game. So I think that for the Lions, to take the Michael Jordan approach here, you got to take it personal.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about James Butler when we talk about the weekly boost. But first, week 3 underway Thursday. The Alouettes, the sizzling Alouettes, are in Edmonton. And when it comes to other lines around the league, what stands out for you?
Yeah, what stands out right now, the Montreal Alouettes playing some really good football. They've opened the week at -5.5 against Edmonton. That line has since shifted to -6, which I think is appropriate. Edmonton's just a team right now that I don't think anybody has a lot of confidence in, whereas the Montreal Alouettes are playing really good football out of the gate. And the other big thing, too, is now the Montreal Alouettes going into week 3 are favored to win the Grey Cup with odds of 4.25 at PlayNow. So there's been a shift there. I think it's appropriate. You look at the East Division, and it's basically the Montreal Alouettes and everybody else. They've struggled. There's some good teams in the West. But I think right now the Montreal Alouettes, based on the first 2 weeks of the season, right now are the class of the CFL at this point, and it's reflected in the Grey Cup odds for sure.
All right, Cam, the moment everyone's been waiting for. I think Baker teased it a little bit. We got James Butler involved in this week 3 boost, but what else you got cooking up for week 3 on PlayNow.com?
Yeah, so I looked at this and it was a tough one, because these teams aren't playing each other back to back. So there's adjustments that the coaching staff makes. And so the one thing that caught my eye was the total is 50.5 points. I thought that was a tad high. So I am starting with the under 50.5. I think that defenses have to be on point here. The Lions have had an extra few days to prepare for the Blue Bombers offense. So I think that the defenses in week 3 are going to step up. I think we're going to see a lower scoring game. So I'm taking first off the under 50.5. And then, frankly, James Butler's got to get more involved. I think the Lions, need to commit to the run game against a physical team like Winnipeg and assert themselves. So, I've talked to our product guys, and I want to go with the under 50.5 parlayed with James Butler 50+ rush yards. We'll look for the boost later this week for sure.
The run game against these guys, you said it, always important. And I'll tell you what, we look forward to seeing you on the big screen talking about all these great initiatives at BCLC and PlayNow.com. Looking forward to it.
People what they want for sure.
Face for television, right?
Yeah.
That's Cam Tucker, Between the Lines, weekly segment here all year long, and head to PlayNow.com for all of the latest goodies. We'll talk soon, sir.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Take
See you
care.
on the weekend, Cam.